First things first, how are you?
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
I'm doing well. Happy to be sitting in Amsterdam, sipping a tea, talking with you guys.
Very quickly about the show last night, and you're doing one more tomorrow, today, but you're here on tour with The War on Drugs. How did it go? What was the mindset going into these shows?
Well, very excited to say the least. I mean, it's rare that you get to tour with a band who's kind of riding such a wave.
Right.
You know, we get to do a lot of shows on our own and sometimes open for bands. But of all the bands we could be opening for, these guys are one of our favorite bands and just thrilled to be with them. We've played some shows with them in the past and they're all super nice guys. The drummer is a really old friend of ours.
Okay.
Like we go back to like our childhood days, like to 9, 10, 11 years
Right.
old. So it's really great to see him and see him doing so well. Yeah, very excited, you know, and still wrapping our heads around what it all is, how it's all going to play out. We've never played rooms this big before, so it's an adjustment for us sonically and technically and I guess emotionally.
Okay. Emotionally, in what sense?
Well, you know, our band, especially in the early days, we started out playing, you know, really quietly, really intimately, and I think we've just sort of built our sound on, you know, in a around those intimate settings.
Right.
Of course, over the years, it's grown, so you know, we're used to, I guess, larger audiences now, but that's a whole different scope of audience, and I guess emotionally because, yeah, it's, you know, bringing your music to people. Naturally, you're going to feel different things about
Sure.
The songs, and they're going to mean different things. They mean different things to me in different rooms, I guess, and for different people. And you know, different countries, you learn something about these songs, and for me, I'm looking forward to a bit of opening up emotionally to what that's going to be.
Well, before we go on to the album and kind of music you're making now in the performances, I'd like to jump back a little bit. And you mentioned your childhood at age 10. Did you know, I don't know his name, but did you know he was into music? And were
Charlie.
you into music at that time?
Yeah, Charlie Hall, drummer for War on Drugs, he was actually the first kid. We had a drum set in our basement,
Okay.
and my brother and I would go down and play. But Andrew had not, I think he was only 9 years old when he had this drum set. He had not really figured out the concept of a backbeat and keeping time. He was still
Right.
playing drums kind of like, you know, Animal from the Muppet Show, just all over the place and hitting everything all the time. Charlie was the first guy we saw sit down and play a beat, or a straight ahead beat, and just kind of showed us like, this is how it's done. This is what the drums, this is the purpose of the drums, is to hold the thing down. So yeah, it's really cool to see him, you know,
Sure.
still holding it down that solid. It's kind of like, of course, that's what he was meant to do. He showed us when we were that young, and now he's still showing us.
And at that, was that the time that you were kind of introduced to music, that love for music developed?
Yeah, those were the first days of kind of falling in love with music, of seeing it as, you know, something that my brother and I could bond over, that we were, you know, interested in together, that was like, you know, I think I was about 11 years old, maybe 12, but it was at least clear that we really liked doing it, that we liked, you know, copying. We were playing AC/DC
Right.
songs and Chuck Berry songs, and you know, whatever was kind of trying to do Van Halen, I guess. And yeah, it was maybe only a few years later, when I was about 15 that I knew that it was the only thing I was going to be doing.
This might be a terribly difficult question to answer, but how did you know? How did you know that this was all that you wanted to do?
It's like a really easy question and also kind of a difficult one. I guess, how can I phrase it? I just knew that I would never be questioning it. There was never anything else I was going to try and be. Nothing else took hold of me that way. There was always, until I really started doing it professionally, there was never any guarantee. There's never a guarantee with music, and so a lot of the more rational people in your life are always suggesting that you have some kind of backup plan, or that you finish college, or that you just consider your other options. But I never left myself any other options. I kind of knew that if I left myself options, then I would have an exit strategy, and I never wanted to have an exit strategy from music. I just wanted to plow ahead.
And what was it that gripped you? What was it, the performing? Was it the creativity aspect, the songwriting aspect? Or was it everything?
They all kind of hit in different ways. Performing, for sure. Our first gigs, I was probably 14, Andrew was probably 12, and we'd play these little kids' birthday parties, like for like a dozen 8-year-olds. And a couple of talent shows, and every once in a while some bar would let us come and play. And definitely caught the bug there, the performing. I liked the rush of that, but also the realization that I could improve on a thing, that like my role as someone affecting the mood of the room, as someone with a role in that experience that everyone was having together, that I could, the more I improved myself as a musician and a performer, I could sort of, just help this situation get better for everybody, whether it's a few people sitting down in a living room or a big concert. It's like, I liked that, just having something to get better at.
Did you immediately start writing songs with your brother from those early days?
Yeah. I remember always, it was, at first you're just kind of aping your favorite bands, so my first songs all sound like AC/DC's first record.
Right.
They'll sound like Long Way to the Top, if you want to rock and roll. We always, at least tried to write original tunes and play them live also. Those were the ones where we realized we're most excited to do for people. I would say it took me, it's the skill that's taken me the longest to develop and actually feel confident in. Like I always saw myself as much more of an instrumentalist.
Sure.
And sort of felt that was my strength, but I guess I never found the Mick Jagger to my Keith Richards, or the Joe Perry to my the Steve Tyler. I don't know. These great combinations. I just always ended up being the one who did the singing. So
did that develop easily, or because could you just go stand in front of the band and start singing?
I did, kind of brazenly, and terribly at first, and it's still kind of the thing I have to put the most thought into, is my delivery as a front man for the band. It's not, I guess it's a role I embraced, but it's also one that's sort of counterintuitive to my nature a little bit. Like I said, more I sort of identify more as an instrumentalist, and singing. You know, I've seen great singers. I've seen great leaders of bands and front people, and I really admire people that are good at that. I know that it's something I have to continually kind of break through. But it's also, it's nice to have something to work at my age, you know, still kind of hone a little bit, and it's all wrapped up in kind of the humanity of it all. You know, the great singers just have a great humanity about them, so it involves your whole life.
Yeah, in that sense, then, how much does that attitude affect the songwriting? Because can I assume there's somewhat of an intuitive approach to songwriting in the band?
Yeah. How much does
kind of this attitude that it has to be human and it has to be.
It doesn't necessarily affect the songwriting for me, because I do rely on my intuition and just kind of try and open up to what wants to come through. We rely more on the subconscious for songwriting than anything. So I'm rarely thinking about how this song, as I'm writing it, is going to play out in a live situation. That comes later. That's after it's been written. Then I start tackling the I guess that emotional quality. What is it going to take for me to deliver this song, and where do I have to be in my head, and you know, and I still sometimes just think I just sort of I pretend I'm Frank Sinatra in my mind, and then sometimes that just helps me get through the first uncomfortable phases of delivering a song.
Right.